Everyone, Temporal here, and for this one we're going to do something a little bit different. I've gotten this question a few times and it doesn't seem to satisfy people when I answer it, so we're doing a bit of a deep dive on the discussion as well as my own further exploration of does it make sense to full heal Pharah during Barrage as Mercy, or does it make sense to damage boost her? And to be clear, there is no actual argument for, oh, damage boost Pharah no matter what. That's not a thing, but there is an argument for, hey, should we full heal Pharah as sort of a pre-healing type situation in case she takes damage, which has some value, or should we be damage boosting her and then adjusting the heal when she takes damage when we see things incoming, etc. And the reason that there isn't an argument for a full boost of Pharah is because a full boost of Pharah, unlike in other situations, does not decrease your TTK, your time to kill, for Pharah's Barrage by 30%, the way that Boost would with other things. What you run into with Boost, specifically for Barrage, is that Pharah effectively stands up here, stands up in the sky, hopefully not high in the sky, hopefully pretty close to the ground, just a little above where Reinhardt can swing from, and she sends in these missiles. And sending in these missiles is fantastic, don't get me wrong. She fires a lot of these missiles. I'll tell you guys the number in just a second here. But what's happening is effectively if you boost her, you're not decreasing the time it takes for the first missile to get from her rocket launchers, her shoulder cannons, to the opponent that it wants to hit down here. We're not decreasing that amount of time at all. There's still a travel time, and it's actually a pretty long travel time. Like, Missile Barrage does an extreme amount of damage, but for how much damage it does, there's a lot of time you have to wait for this first missile to get, or this first wave of missiles to get from her to her opponents. But the second missile is right behind the third missile. The third missile is right behind that. The fourth missile right behind that, etc. So once the first missile hits, the second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. missiles are all right there ready to do damage. But there's a fair amount of delay before that first missile hits, which is, well, but it's just something that we have to react to, we have to understand, and that adjusts what we do with. So if we damage boost Barrage, we're not decreasing the travel time of these missiles. That's not what's happening. We're just making it so that instead of the fifth missile eliminating someone, the fourth missile will eliminate someone. But the difference between when the fourth and the fifth missile gets to an opponent is very, very small. So that's why this isn't just a shoo-in that damage boost is better. That said, damage boost could still be better. And when I say damage boost, I really mean a selective use. So like start on damage boost, adjust to heals if they take damage, try to get more damage boost in, a sort of greeding damage boost approach. We like to greed damage boost in general with Mercy, but there's a real argument for that not making sense during Barrage, specifically because of how Barrage works here with the travel time of the missiles and how much crazy high damage it does. Okay, so that's the first thing that we've sort of got to understand to get into this. Then we get into the pro scene. So what do the pros do? Like, can we just answer this question? Are the pros uniform on, hey, you're supposed to damage boost during Barrage and heal if they take damage? Are the pros uniform on you should just heal during Barrage? Well, not really, no. They never have been. We can go back historically. We can find interviews where pros at all levels have said, oh, well, I like to heal during it because Barrage just does enough damage. We've seen pros that seem to mix it between damage boost and healing. So that's what we've seen historically. So what are we getting into today? Well, fortunately, we've seen some Pharah in the last week or so of Owl. Pharah has maybe not been like hard full everything meta, but Pharah's around. Pharah's seeing some play for some teams. So before we get any further, let's see what's been done there. And for those of you that are in chat, if you have questions, comments, things you want to get in here, I totally am going to address what you have to say. It's absolutely interesting to me. But I'm generally okay, so here we are. We're looking at this, and let's get into this. So here we've got our first pharmacy combination that played last week and that actually ran pharmacy, and that would be the Hunters, and that is going to be a case of Jinmu and Yeatle. So what does Yeatle like to do here? Let's find out. So we see this. We don't have anything yet. No Pharah, or no Mercy. Now Mercy shows up. Jinmu's at 197 health, so Jinmu's not really taking damage, but there's a little bit there, and Yeatle is showing up on heals. So we have to decide what that means. Is Yeatle going full heals, or is Yeatle reacting to the fact that Jinmu is missing a tiny bit of health? We don't know yet. Trying here, guys. There was a tiny little flick of damage here, then back to heals. Heals, but missing health. Okay, so we don't necessarily know from that one. The boost was late, so that might not be enough information for us. So let's move on and see what happened in the next one here, because fortunately, we do get another Jinmu Yeatle Barrage here, and that we're going to jump for. About here-ish. Wow, I got that a little too perfect. You can watch a little bit back here. Okay, and then let's go here. Ripping onto two opponents. Now the mines as well, just blocking up the point. We're on this. This is a massive window of opportunity now for Chengdu. Be able to capitalize. Okay. Okay, and we're on damage boost. No one's looking at him. He kind of came in from a sneaky angle, and we're starting on damage boost, and we don't immediately swap over to heals. This isn't like a get the first 4 rockets out, and then swap to heals. This is a damage boost. And now I expect we'll swap to heals because Jinmu is missing health, but we can clearly see this was a start on damage boost. So Yeatle is trying to go with a fine touch, reactive, perhaps more interesting for the person driving Mercy approach of, hey, let me jump between heals and damage here. And that's unfortunately all we've got in terms of what I saw for these two with barrages in the last week here. So let's move on and see our next combination. And our next combination is going to be Fleta and Lijiagan here. This one goes down. Lijiagan has the Valkyrie. Okay, so we're here. Fleta's here. Fleta's hitting Barrage, and you might be going, oh, wait, it's not fair. There's a DM in play, so of course he's going to be getting healed while a DM is in play. I see it, so maybe we'll consider that as something that factors into it, but Lijiagan is starting with Fleta from the very beginning on heals. Fleta's still at 200 health, still on heals. In fact, nobody's dead. Goes down a little bit there, stays on heals, really wasn't in any danger whatsoever, only swapped to damage boost after the barrage was over. Okay, so that's one for, that is one for Lijiagan, preferring to go with the heals here. But let's get another example just to be sure, and we're going to get that here. Nothing else is going to be able to suffice. And a hack onto Hawk already, that's going to give Fleta a massive opportunity for a barrage. And the teleport got destroyed. A couple of the players in the Atlanta ring didn't manage to... Okay, Fleta's taken some damage here, but we are starting on heals. Get in. Did get forced eliminated, or it did get forced... No. Continued on this, went with our barrage. Took a lot of damage during this one, so this one is less decisive, but I still think between these two, we probably do have our answer. We can watch it one more time, just to feel a little bit better about that. The instant that we know this is happening. So Fleta was missing health when we started. Perhaps that was the reason that we got heals this one, but between this and the last one, I think we've probably got our answer for, hey, we do see that Lijiagan thinks that heals is the appropriate solution here. So now we will move on. We do have one more Fleta one, and that's going to be a bit further along. Hopefully that'll let us have a decisive answer. Has to back off, but now going to be getting the heals. It does give Atlanta a window. Duplicate also, double Orisa on the battlefield. And here we are. And okay, we immediately took a little bit of damage. We'll slow it down. So this happens, we do that. We're doing that, we're up to full health again. We're staying heals even as we're up to full health. Maybe that's because Hawk is showing up. And when Hawk is showing up, it certainly doesn't make sense to be damage boosting because, of course, he's going to be DMing it. So maybe there's a little bit of a question here, but we had a little bit of a question in our last pharmacy combo as well, as we had Pharah showing up late as well. To me, I'm willing to look at this and go, it looks like Jagon prefers to go heals. It looks like Yeatle here prefers to use a little more of a fine touch, sort of reactive type thing. So let's move on to our last Pharah here, or our last pharmacy combination. Okay. And that is going to be Sparkle plus Jesse. And we're going for a Barrage, and we're definitely starting on damage here. I don't know if you guys can see this well. It's a little bit annoying, but we see this right here. That is an up arrow. That is damage. And then we're on heals now, but we're on heals after Sparkle's down at 70 HP. So nothing wild, and even Barrage is over. Okay, so that looks like that. And let's move on just to get another example. Oh, okay.
Question is if Doha can help him finish off those kills. A little tough given how durable the Rain are. Of course, switching to that Moira setup now with the Reinhardt.
And we go for the Barrage here, and we are on damage. We take some damage. We swap over to heals. We're back to damage. It's possible that was we're going to start damage. We're going to go to heals no matter what. But this looks like, again, they're going for a bit of a fine touch here, Jesse, in terms of, hey, let's adjust back and forth, not just hard heal this. And then we should have one more. Too far.
Easy Hawk is able to put that pressure on now. Sparkle gets some damage on the mech here, and it's a little bit.
Okay, so we go for the Barrage. We're on damage. It stays damage. It stays damage. It swaps to heal for a moment there. And now it's over and we're on heal. Okay, don't know why we're on heal when it's over right now, but so be it. So we got that, and we've effectively got our answer of what the pros do, and the pros are split. So we have to make our own decisions. We were going to make our own decisions anyways, but the pros are a relevant data point. If they're all hard going in one direction, that could suggest that the coaching world just hasn't caught up and got the right answer yet, or it could suggest that, hey, if this is strong evidence to look more closely at a belief of view, etc., and really challenge it more aggressively, is something being missed, etc., when trying to come to a conclusion. But our pros are split here. We had two that were sort of doing the fine touch thing, and we had one that was like, no, I'm just staying heals. This is silly. I'm staying heals. So there we are. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, because if that's what it is, how can we get an answer besides what the pros are doing? Well, the next step would be to look at the hero cast. Let's look at the hero cast and do some math. I know that's everyone's favorite thing to do. So if we look at the hero cast, there's really something we're trying to do. We're trying to understand, of the heroes, when we get to them, which heroes are going to, how shall I say, adding heals to your Pharah adds time to the amount of time she gets to Barrage, and which heroes does it not? Because the heroes that she gets to add time to, she does something like, 30 missiles per second? Actually, we have the wiki somewhere. Let me pull that up. Missile Barrage. Here we go. Missile Barrage, we can see that Missile Barrage, based on the wiki at least, does 30 rockets per second. So even surviving for an extra quarter of a second because of heals from pre-healing specifically would mean an extra 7.5 rockets that you'd get out there. That's a pretty big deal. And we've covered it's really not a 30%. Like, yes, it's 30% more damage, but it doesn't make the damage deliver 30% faster. You will potentially get more rockets out if you're healing there. So there's an equation to be had here. So what we're looking at is, okay, what things do heals not help against? And what I mean by that is there's going to be situations here where heals don't help. And the most obvious example from the tank cast is Roadhog. If Roadhog throws a hook at you, Roadhog cancels your barrage, and he's probably going to eliminate you. And it doesn't matter that you were receiving healing. Damage would have been better just from the fact that you would have done more damage before you got eliminated. You had a slightly, very slightly higher chance of eliminating him or someone else before you get hooked if you were damage boosting, as opposed to if you were getting heals, because the heals just don't help with that. But heals do help against all of our other tanks. And what I mean by that is Zarya can melt you, Zarya can beam you, but Zarya is going to beam you down slower if you are getting heals. D.Va is going to shoot you down slower if you are getting heals. She's a little bit special in that there's, hey, she can fly into you, cause you to blow yourself up type thing, but that's a little bit different. I'm going to consider that a little bit of a different thing, because she can do that whether you're damage boost or healing. It doesn't really make a difference on her for that one, because she's going to DM on the way in there. Similar thing with Reinhardt if he were to run his shield into you. So when we look at these, okay, Roadhog can one-shot you / cancel you with CC. Everyone else is going to take multiple hits to take you down, and they're going to take multiple hits that isn't just okay, well, if you're getting heals, like some heroes, as we'll get to, can two-shot you, and you adding heals will not turn it into 3 shots. That's not really true for any of these heroes. So we look at this and go, okay, really there's one hero in our tank cast. Some of you might look at this and go, wait, no, I disagree. I think you're wrong in terms of how many heroes you're picking are relevant, are in a situation where damage is better than heals. And that's fine. You guys can have some disagreement. I'm showing you my methodology, and I'm happy to talk about it as we get into the discussion at the end here. But I'm looking at this and going, one of our tanks is in a situation where damage boosting against them in an isolated situation is better than heals. And then if we move on to damage, well, this gets a little more interesting. The obvious ones would be, okay, well, that one damage is going to be better against, that one damage is going to be better against, this one damage is going to be better against, probably this one and this one. Who am I missing here? That might be it. Let me think for just a second. Is that it? I thought I had 6 in my original thing. No, 5 is right. Okay, and how I get to these is Widow can obviously one-shot you and is likely to one-shot you if you're missile barraging. She's not going to SMG you down, so it doesn't matter how much healing you're getting. Pharah is going to take you down with 2 rocket directs. That's what she's going to do, and you getting healing is not going to change any sort of breakpoint. If you're getting healing, unless she has to reload between the first and the second rocket, it's not going to be a relevant amount of healing to keep you alive, and she shouldn't miss. You're locked in place. Similar story with these two for hitting headshots. Hanzo can one-shot you, or he can pretend to be one of these guys. Now, again, there may be disagreements on like, wait, no, Bastion can take you down super fast. Nope, Bastion can take you down super fast, but you are going to be increasing the time you're alive slightly if you're healing. It's very slight, but you're going to be doing it, and that's extra missiles. No, Doomfist. Yeah, Doomfist could, but the situation has to be too perfect for him to punch you. No, Junkrat can two-shot you. Junkrat and Reaper can two-shot you. They absolutely can. But again, the situations have to be a little too perfect for them, so I don't really feel it's appropriate to count them. Because if you have to pick them as well, can they take you down before heals are relevant, or can't they? Well, occasionally they can, but if we're looking at sort of the reality of how the game plays, no. They have to be right there. The situation sort of has to line up just right for them. Maybe a more objectionable one would be Sombra. I'm sure people have seen Pharahs get hacked during Missile Barrage. It's not terribly common, but it does happen. I don't really think it's appropriate to put that one in there either. So these are the 5 that I've gone with. Again, I'm happy to discuss them, defend them. Maybe I'll change my mind and change the numbers if someone makes a convincing argument. But this is where I am in terms of these are the heroes that damage would make more sense to be doing, potentially, if they're on the field. And the reason for that is, again, they either one-shot or two-shot, and if they two-shot, the amount of mercy healing that can come in between isn't actually going to extend their life, their time on the board, etc. So, okay, that's a thing to think about. For everyone else, if Genji is throwing shurikens at you, even if Echo is focusing, beaming you, any of those things, we're in a situation where, oh, no, we're actually looking at this in such a way where the heals are going to increase your life. The heals are going to mean more rockets come out. More rockets coming out is quite huge. Okay. So then we move on to support. And if we move on to our support here, Anna's got Sleep Dart, and no one else has Squat. It's not real for Zen to have a volley charge. Zen doesn't have time to charge a volley, and if Zen does charge a volley, your barrage has already been extremely successful, so that doesn't really work. She should not be able to hit you with a bash. You are barraging way too low if she can. Immortality field can happen, but that doesn't hurt Pharah. That's like, yes, that's annoying. That's actually a greater reason for Pharah to be on heals, because it's more important that she survives longer to swap targets, where she can reposition her missiles, rather than that she does more damage. Mercy's a little complicated in that she changes other people's breakpoints a little bit, but no. If we look at this, there's only one. So then if we sort of do our math, and we're not doing total cast math, because total cast math doesn't make sense. The game now has roll lock in it, but we're not really limiting this to metas either. We're not calculating what the current meta is and going, oh yes, Ana is more or less common than Lucia. We're not doing that, because that becomes infinitely complicated, and we're also not going to go into, okay, but what are the breakpoints if we combine these specific heroes? Exactly how much time does Mercy add if you're getting shot at by a Genji plus a soldier, etc.? We're not doing that, because quite frankly, that equation is way, way, way too complex, and I'd have to get paid for it. Like, full on, I'd have to get paid for it. But that's okay. I'm admitting to you guys what the limitations of my study is here, what the limitations of what we're looking at is. If you don't like the methodology, we're going to get into it. Or you see what it is, so you can see why you don't like it. Okay, so that's what we've got. And what do those numbers give us? Well, those give us, as we sort of do this over here, let me just switch back to all because it's not relevant anymore. And we have tank, damage, support, and we have heals add. No, what? Heals plus. Heals add time. That's a terrible plus. How am I going to do this with a different color? Heals add time. And then we have heals don't add. Okay. And then we'll get our percents, I suppose. Okay, so we did this. Our wonderful graphing that we're doing here. I know, guys, it's great. And what we're going to get is 7. We can do one there, I suppose. 7. Nope, that's not right. Sorry about that. This is going to be, we decided that there was one tank that heals, excuse me. Oh, I flipped those. Fine, we'll do it the other way. Heals did not add time for one tank. They did not add time for 5 of the damage dealers. They did not add time for 1 of the supports. They did add time against 7 of the tanks, 12 of the damage dealers, 6 of the supports. So if we do our percentages, effectively this into this plus this, that's going to give us 12.5%. That's going to give us 29.4. And that's going to give us 14. We'll call that 14.3. We'll call that 0.3. Okay, so those are our percents. And then we've sort of got a decision to make. This is about as far as we can go with methodology in terms of, okay, we can go test things. Again, we're not going to go wildly, wildly deeper than this, but what does this tell us conclusion-wise? Well, we saw the pros were a mixed bag. They leaned a little more towards, hey, let's go for active control. The data here from a non-meta perspective does clearly suggest that, okay, the percentage of the time that it helps to damage boost is quite low. Against, in all 3 roles, the percentage that it helps to boost is really quite low. Now, you could decide that if you see an unusually high number of heroes that it makes sense to boost against, so maybe you're looking at Ana plus Roadhog, things like that on the other team, okay, maybe it makes more sense to be damage boosting. But sort of a general by the numbers thing would suggest that healing is better than damage boosting. But we can still go a little bit deeper on this. And the ways that we can go a little bit deeper on this is we can talk about, okay, well, you're talking about heals versus damage, but it's not straight heals versus damage. Like, there is some ability to control. And we're talking about, okay, well, heals versus damage from a pre-healing sense. If you're going to get a little bit more healing done, your healing total is going to be a little higher if you're pre-healing, versus you really don't get that much of a benefit off of damage boost, even though, yes, you do get some. So what can we do? Well, what we can do is we can go, in theory, your Mercy knows better than the other team knows when that barrage is going to come out. So in theory, you could go, okay, well, maybe for that first quarter of a second, less than a quarter of a second. We said it's 7.5 missiles per quarter second. So really, we are only interested in like the first 4 or 5 missiles, because that'll get us an elimination. Could we boost like the first 4 or 5 eliminations? Because however good our opponents are, there's going to be some reaction time for them. There's going to be some snapping of their necks, rotating of their screens, etc. for it. Could we like boost those and then swap to full heals? Well, we could. That would certainly be less time on damage boost than we saw in some of our examples from some of these players here. Like, it would be less than that, but that's certainly a thing that we could make an argument for. We could also make an argument for, hey, pre-healing is only sort of a thing in this game. Pre-healing doesn't like overheal people. It doesn't give them preventative damage. It still is reactive to the stuff that comes in. And as latency gets lower and reactions get higher, pre-healing does become a little less important. Like, if you can react and be like, no, I am 0.00001 seconds after they took damage, I'm healing them, as opposed to healing them the instant they're taking damage because I was already on heals. Well, okay, if your reactions are that good and the latency is that good, yeah, then your damage, the extra you get from damage, would be worth more. So there is an equation there. And no, we can't really get into exactly what is that equation. But we can suggest that perhaps even though this clearly looks like, hey, we're better off on the heal side, the pre-heal side, rather than the damage boost side, as the reaction times get extremely, extremely good and the latency becomes non-existent, perhaps it's less bad, or perhaps there's even a justifiable argument for, hey, let's get this done. What my takeaway, though, for most players at most ranks, yes, I'm including GM, yes, I'm including 4,400 players, would be, if you're playing, especially if you're playing online, I would recommend that most players go either full heal, or they start for just a fraction, and I mean a fraction of a second when that barrage starts on damage boost, and then they flip over to full heals, unless they can like very actively see that there's no threats. If you want to go deeper than that and start adjusting based on the heroes that are on the board on the other side and the cooldowns that are there, based on sort of this table that we went through as we went through the heroes, that's totally fine, and I think that makes sense. But I would say the general takeaway that I would recommend for players for this would be either go full heals or do just a fraction, less than a quarter of a second on damage boost at the very beginning, because again, your Pharah she's going to take damage very, very quickly, she shouldn't instantly take damage, and getting that first elimination from that 4th missile instead of that 5th missile does have a little bit of value. So if you wanted to go like less than a quarter of a second on damage boost before flipping over, that could make sense. So that's sort of how I view this. That's what I wanted to present to you guys, because I've been asked this question, sent me into a little bit of a deep dive, but I like doing those. I like re-exploring conclusions that I've come to, seeing, okay, has the data changed? Is there reasons that I should change my conclusion? Should I re-explore this from a new angle? And this was me re-exploring it from a new angle. So I do enjoy doing these things. I hope you guys enjoy them too. I will now catch up on chat, and then we'll hop over to the Reddit thread and see if people have put stuff there. Okay, so Val asks, was this in response to yesterday's Mercy review? The day before yesterday's Mercy review, yes. This is temporal flexing. He'll tell people they're wrong. I mean, mostly, yeah. He will say low SR players can get away staying on heal and quickly greed the blue back to heal as soon as Pharah gets shot at. That's not exactly what I said. If you add the number of missiles in each volley together, it happens to be Temporal's birthday. Okay. High SR just heal. Bad mic day. Oh, is it a bad mic day? Oh, that sucks. Oh, really? Darn. Okay, I may have to redo that one. I'm sorry, guys. Darn. Okay. Microphone is cutting out. Is the mic jack loose? It sounds like the thing is turning. Is a nano barrage though. The real question is what would Lurp might do? Poor 76. Hello Reddit. Temporal's drawing is always like this. Super chat him so he can afford Epic Pen Pro. It wouldn't help. Mike was okay for most of it. Okay, that's good. Darn. That's annoying. So Mercy should always just heal. Mostly yes. My conclusion was a little more complicated than that, but mostly yes. There were a few periods where it was noisy, but it wasn't that bad. Okay, I'll have to go back and listen to it. I'm going to take your word for it. I could go replace it real quick and redo the presentation, I suppose, if it was bad, but I would want to do that now while the thread is fresh. I'd want to edit in a new stream in there and replace it if that was what happened. But if you guys tell me it wasn't that bad, we'll go with it. Still, I need to replace this headset because that happens sometimes and sometimes is too often. Okay. Um, you can make a nice image. With Epic Pen Pro? I mean, with Epic Pen Pro, what I'd really get is I'd get access to the backgrounds here, which would be fine. To replace my art. My art is wonderful. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Let's jump over here with straight lines. Yeah, whatever. You and your straight lines. No, that's fair. Okay, so that's what we really had there. Again, conclusion for those that are sort of looking for it is for almost everyone, your best solution is either going to be to just stay on heals there or to start a damage for a fraction of a moment and then swap over to heals. Okay, we've got that. That's fine. Nothing too wild there. And then we won't let this one run long if people don't have questions, so we will end it there. Sorry again about the mic situation. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that does help quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you're looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have going on, all of that good stuff. Yes, we'll get a Patreon. Thank you, blah. Thanks, guys.